every single day you put the work in. The results may not show year one, may not show year two, it may take 10 years. Nothing's going to be handed to you. Just because you made it to the NFL doesn't mean you earn the right to play.
James White.
James White.
James White.
James White. James White.
I am so excited about today's episode. I have on an old teammate and friend of mine, James White, who you likely know as an ex-NFL running back. So we're going to talk all things football, NFL, having played for the New England Patriots, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, the business of the NFL.
The more you're in it, the more you understand it.
Most importantly, a little bit about finances and kind of how you manage that.
I met with like 3 or 4 different financial advisors. Nobody can tell you who to pick and who to trust. You just have to feel like you can communicate with those guys.
So without further ado, here's the pod. Episode 11 of Roads and Riches. I am so excited about today's episode. I have on an old teammate and friend of mine, James White, who you likely know as an ex-NFL running back, having played for the New England Patriots, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, just had, an incredible career in the NFL and could not be more excited and happy for all the success that James achieved and that he's continuing to achieve now post NFL and retirement, coming into this next phase of his life. So we're going to talk all things football, NFL, business of the NFL, most importantly, a little bit about, finances and kind of how you manage that too, at that level and just, whenever really you're, some of these things that professional athletes have to really think about and deal with. Again, super excited for today's episode. I think you're going to love it. So without further ado, here's the pod. James Sweet Feet White. This is awesome. I appreciate you coming back on. Had the technical difficulty last time with the audio, so I get to get you for 2 rounds, which is awesome. So how's everything going, man?
Everything's good. Can't complain. Same old, chasing my kids around, trying to stay busy, working here at NIU, doing some broadcasting on the weekends. So just trying to have some fun with it.
I saw that. I told myself that I need to catch some of your broadcasts. I'm like, oh man, I haven't gotten any of yours yet. And I know Gio is also, and I want to catch some of his too.
Yeah, we're both doing it through the same company, through Sports USA. It's a ton of fun. A guy by the name of Larry Kahn, he reached out to me, shortly after I retired through some of the Patriots media personnel. He asked me if I was interested in doing it, and I always wanted to get into media once I was done playing. So it's a great start. That's what I enjoy doing most, is kind of broadcasting the games, calling how I see it, kind of being descriptive. That's the most fun I enjoy when it comes to post-football career.
Yeah, and I mean, it gives you really an opportunity to kind of stay in the game a little bit. So, what was maybe like the most challenging part of transitioning from like professional football career to life outside the game? And like, did you mentally prepare for that at all? Because at the end of the day, I mean, you were 31, 32, right? When you, quote unquote retired. And so it's like, what's next? So did you have time to mentally prepare for that?
No, I didn't mentally prepare for it whatsoever. Got hurt 2021, fractured my hip. Didn't really know the extent of the injury at the time. But then, like, once I got to the hospital and they explained everything to me, I was like, oh, this is pretty serious. Didn't really know whether I was going to end up playing again. I was a free agent, after the 2021 season. So who wants to sign a fractured hip, 31-year-old running back? Luckily enough, Bill Belichick, Mr. Kraft, they reached out to me right when free agency opened, asked me if I still wanted to play, and I said yes. I didn't want to walk away without, at least giving an attempt of trying to still play football. Went through OTAs, went through summer training camp doing rehab, and just didn't feel like myself, so I had to call it. But yeah, I didn't mentally prepare for it. You think everything's going to be smooth once you're done playing, but so you're so used to that regimented schedule. Every month means something, every day means something, every week means something. And then once you're done, it's just like, hey, buddy, just go figure it out. Like, you don't have doctors you can just walk in the training room and go see. You don't, have a set schedule of when to wake up and do all this other stuff. So just kind of got to figure out on your own. I would say it didn't go really smooth those first few years. Just trying to figure out a daily routine. My wife telling me I need to go out and do something. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do on a day-to-day basis. But now, working here at NIU and doing the broadcast and Sirius XM, just trying to dip my toe into a bunch of different things.
One of the things that, you mentioned Bill Belichick there, right? And you're someone, you played under Bill Belichick, you played alongside Tom Brady, and you're moving into life outside football. And I got to imagine you've definitely had some key lessons that you learned about developing like a winning mindset that you certainly can apply to outside of football. And, it's maybe easier said than done. And it certainly takes some time for adjustment. But, what was it like playing in that storied organization? And what were maybe some of the key things that you feel like you walked away with that really are helping you now in this next phase?
It was awesome to be able to get drafted by such a historic franchise. I got drafted at at the right time, had a very good football team, won a Super Bowl in my rookie season. Just the things that I, took most is just accountability, putting the work in and the results will show. So just accountability is when you mess up, be accountable, be accountable every single day, be prepared, ready to go at all times, just showing up and working hard. I think that's a lost art. Today's day and age, everybody wants to just wake up and think you just get to everything, get to the top right away. But it takes baby steps. It's gonna every single day you put the work in. The results may not show year one, may not show year two, may take 10 years. Who knows? But you just gotta stay on that path. And for me, my rookie season, I didn't play. I played in like 3 games, cleanup duty at the end of the football game. One of the hardest years of my life as far as the sports sports career, but it taught me a lot that, nothing's going to be handed to you. Just because you made it to the NFL doesn't mean you earn the right to play. So from that point on, I wanted to make sure I earned my keep and make sure they had to put me on the field.
You talked a little bit about like, okay, I don't have the ability to walk in and, see these doctors, get the treatments and, have all these different resources that really you were used to having available to you. Tell us a little bit about like, what it's like at that level, right? Like, I think a lot of people think or at least envision like the glitz and the glam, right? And which I'm sure there's a lot of that. And so share a little bit of that too, because you work so hard to get there. What comes along with it, man? Like, what's the travel schedule like, right? Like, How are you guys traveling? What's different about, traveling in the NFL with an organization like the Patriots to, even, when you were at Wisconsin? I'm sure there's, big differences, the kinds of hotels you're staying at, like all that kind of stuff. What kind of comes along with it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things when it comes to, the day-to-day basis. You have trainers, at your hand whenever you need it. You have doctors on call. If you get hurt, things of that nature, you're going to reach out to the best doctors possible. Depending on what your injury is, it could be something very specific. They'll go out there and try and find it for you to make sure you're correct. So, you have great coaching. There's a million coaches in the building. So whatever you need, there's different coaches. You have running backs, receivers. Sometimes you got 2 coaches at each position. You have scouts. You have everything you need. Nutritionists. If you want to be super healthy when it comes to eating, you have that. There's guys in the weight room. You have a few different strength coaches. You have hot tubs, cold tubs. You have salt tanks, float tanks, like all. Especially when it comes to the Patriots organization, I'd say they do a great job of having all the resources at hand. And when it comes to traveling, you have your own charter planes, just the team, the coaches, some media personnel. It's chartered. Don't have to go through an airport. Just go through security at like a little private part of the airport and walk through and go straight on the plane, in and out. So you don't have to deal with, too much stress when it comes to that. You stay in, pretty nice hotels for the most part. I think it just all depends on the organization. I know with the Patriots, sometimes we stayed in a really nice hotel. Sometimes it's an okay hotel. So it just really depends. But yeah, everything's on a set schedule. And I think that's what it's similar to college. In college, everything's on a set schedule. You take off, you land, you have like an hour or so, then you have meetings for a couple hours, and you have a few hours to yourself. Go to sleep, wake up, then it's game day, you head back home. So it's very structured. You got to stay on schedule.
Yeah. You're used to competing in high pressure situations. So especially in, your second Super Bowl appearance, you had really just overall tremendous game, big, come from behind victory. You had a tremendous showing that day. What was your preparation like? And how much of it did you feel is mental versus physical? And what do you feel like you've done through, all these years to prepare for when you're going into those high pressure situations? Do you feel it? Do you recognize it? Or is it just another day?
I think you prepare all year long for those moments. You can't really make, a Super Bowl game bigger than, although it is, you can't make it bigger than, any regular season game. You got to psych yourself out mentally. So the preparation during practice. You give it everything you have during practice, whether it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then by the time, Sunday rolls around, you trust the coaching, trust the work you put in, on all those days, and just kind of go out there and let it go. And for me, honestly, in college, in our bowl games, like our last games of the year, I didn't perform, very well in those games. My senior year, I performed pretty decently, but every year before that, I didn't really do too much. So by the time I made it to the NFL, I said, like, if I get an opportunity to make it in the postseason or in the Super Bowl, I can't perform the way I did, like in college in those games. So I wanted to make sure I was on my P's and Q's. I was accountable, I was reliable for my teammates. And I said, it didn't happen in my rookie season, but the next year we made it to the AFC Championship. We lost that game to the Broncos, but I made some plays that year. Then the following year, we ended up making it back to the Super Bowl against the Falcons. My first opportunity to play in the Super Bowl. Actually, the first pass that was thrown to me, I dropped it. Somebody made a good play on it. And I remember coming to the sideline, everybody's kind of like, not like really like looking at me funny, but I kind of felt a little weird. I'm like, okay, let me like really like lock in here and really get this thing going, and didn't drop any passes or really make any mistakes after that. So sometimes just a little wake up call here and there to get you, back locked in. But yeah, man, you got to trust your preparation during the week and then just let it go on game days.
I got to imagine when you're playing on a stage like the Super Bowl, you got to feel it. That's pretty special.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of celebrities in there. When we were playing the Falcons, I felt like I was in like a Atlanta club, like in the first half. They're showing Ludacris, T.I., like all these people from Atlanta playing their music. I'm like, man, we're getting beat down. Like this, it's not the way I wanted to go out. My first time playing the Super Bowl, but at the end of the day, you got to do the best you can to kind of block all that stuff out. It's 11 on 11, your team versus their team, and just like I said, maximize the opportunity. Work so hard to get to that point. You don't want to go out get beat down.
Yeah. One of the things that we talked about last time that I asked you was like, the first time that you walk into that locker room and you're seeing Gronk, you're seeing Tom Brady's name, right? You see all these guys that just a few short years before that, you're in high school. And, we're sitting there in class together and we got a, BG with all his Patriots banners up, right? And there you are just a few short years later. And all those same guys that you were watching those few years prior to that, you're now competing with, and you're now, on the same team. There's guys that you're playing with, across the line of scrimmage from you. And, I not even to mention that, like, now you're talking about all these, big names of celebrities and everything that are coming out for the Super Bowl, and all the different opportunities that you probably had to meet some really probably very talented, special, very cool people. What's that like? Did you have any of those pinch me moments? And maybe who was one person that maybe you were like, whoa, like, this is so cool. Like, I get to meet you. Maybe you kind of looked up to them in a special way,
Yeah, I say like rookie season, walking into the locker room, having all those guys in there, you're definitely like starstruck a little bit, like, oh, that's really Tom, that's really Gronk, that's really Darrelle Revis over there, that's really Dante Hightower and all these dudes. But like at the same time, you gotta get that out of your system really quick, and you gotta feel like you belong, feel like you earn the right to be in that locker room, earn the right to play in the National Football League. So the faster you can get that out of your system, that helps you a ton. But yeah, playing in the NFL, playing for a great franchise, you get to come across quite a few talented celebrities, people from all walks of life, which was really cool. Getting the opportunity to go to plenty of Celtics games, get to watch LeBron play courtside, Kyrie Irving, got to like meet Kevin Durant like at the ESPYs. Seeing like all these guys that have a ton of success in their own careers, to be able to cross paths with them is, it's kind of surreal. Seeing Mark Wahlberg like after the Super Bowl, like he's on the field
cool.
saying what's up to him. Getting to meet like his brother Donnie Wahlberg it's just kind of it's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool. All at the same time. But yeah, it's cool to be able to meet other people that have success in their own respective crafts.
Did you feel like, whether it was when you got to the league or maybe even Wisconsin, both of those levels, right? You're coming into a new just level, right? It's a new league. You're leveling up. You got a new kind of pool of competition, right? It's the cream of the crop. What was it like overcoming adversity where like you felt like you had, this hurdle in front of you? Did you ever have some of those moments, and what was it like for you to be able to like really dig deep and overcome adversity?
My rookie season, that was a lot of adversity for me. Like, so obviously I got drafted in the 4th round, had like a decent training camp and OTAs, but didn't do enough. I remember going into, week 1. Well, actually, I'll rewind the clock a little bit. Got drafted. I remember I got drafted to the New England Patriots, and I was sitting there like that same day I got drafted, like going through the schedules, like, oh, we get to play, in Miami, like week 1. I get to play at home in front of all my friends and family and everything. I like circled that game. I was like, can't wait to play at home. Like the week of that game, I'm pretty sure it was Friday. Like before practice, we had meetings with the running back coach. He's like, look, we got 4 running backs like on the active roster. He's like, we're only gonna go in the game with 3. One of you guys are gonna be inactive. And he's like, probably gonna be you, James. I was like, inactive. I was like, what does that even mean? Like, do I still get paid? Like, am I how does that work? I had no clue what that meant at the time. And then that bus ride to the stadium, that hurt my pride like so bad. I was like damn near in tears, like riding to that stadium. I felt like I failed myself because I looked so far ahead instead of putting the work in at the time to be give myself the opportunity to actually play in front of my family that game. That hurt me, and now that whole entire season I had to sit back and watch and learn, and that it was so much adversity. Me just kind of not really trying to make it about myself, and at the same, although it hurt. Not being able to play, I didn't want to make it too much about myself, but just trying to figure out what I could do to, earn my teammates and the coach's trust. Maybe not for that season, but the following season to make sure I was prepared and ready to go. And then, coming into my second year, we had like 8 running backs on the roster. They signed the guys that do similar things to what I do to like pretty much replace me. To me, I almost saw the writing on the wall. So I had to go out during the preseason, perform the absolute best I could to, whether it was with the Patriots or whether another team saw me on tape, to make sure they felt like I could have an opportunity to play somewhere. I had a heck of a preseason that year. Still thinking I probably wasn't going to make the roster even through the last preseason game, but ended up making it. But that rookie season really shaped me. I learned a lot. I said really learning nothing is promised. I said no matter whether you're drafted or not, you have to earn everything you want in life.
Lo and behold, I think the running joke is that, Tom stole your, Super Bowl MVP.
I mean, hey, he threw for a ton of yards too, so I can't fault him.
He did. I remember seeing that after. It's like, James comes in here 3 touchdowns and tremendous game. Everybody's like, wait a second.
It's quarterback league,
awesome. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about leadership in that locker room. Tom is, this, obviously storied quarterback, be a Hall of Famer, I'm sure. What was his leadership like in that locker room? And if you were to kind of like define it, what would that look like? And not only that, but did you ever see like other guys on the team that maybe even had a hard time with other leaders in the locker room? Because, I mean, you're at the cream of the crop. You've got all these guys that were probably like captains and leaders or whatever, at their universities or whatever. And they may need to come in here and really kind of take a step down or maybe play a different role. Right. Yeah. Do you think guys assessed those situations well? And did you ever see times where there was like, those conflicts out there?
Yeah, definitely be conflict at times. When it came to Tom, I mean, he's the ultimate leader. I mean, he's not the guy giving, vocal speeches like all the time, but look, you just know, like, his preparation, his detail, every single day, especially on offense, you got to be prepared and ready to go. You can't step in the huddle with that guy. He's so detail oriented. Every day matters. Every meeting matters to him. If you can't, be on the same page as that, then you probably won't, play for very long. With Tom Brady at the quarterback position, so the way he attacked every single day, it rubbed off on everybody. If it didn't rub off on you, you probably weren't, on the field very much. So he was a great leader. But then we had guys like Matthew Slater, who was a special teamer, but one of the best people you could ever be around in life from a personal standpoint, a football standpoint. He did everything the right way, a guy that everybody in the locker room could learn from. You had Devin McCourty, a very vocal leader as well, guy who had a ton of success in the league, played for a very long time, similar, just guys you want to emulate, your life after on and off the football field, from a father's husband, football player, everything. So we had a ton of guys, and look, it's not hard playing for one of the best franchises, or it's hard. It can be hard, playing for one of the best franchises, in all of football, because the level of expectation is up here, and then you gotta live up to that standard every single day. So look, not everybody coming into the locker room is ready to live up to that standard every day. So yeah, there's going to be some feathers that are going to be ruffled throughout the process, and you're going to have to weed through some of those guys who may not necessarily fit the team that well. But look, at the same time, like I said, that you got to rely upon leaders and coaches and everybody to get everybody on the same page. But it's not always the case where it's going to be extremely smooth all the time.
Yeah, and in New England now too. They're definitely going through, we'll call it
transition,
rebuilding or growing pains, right?
Yeah.
You lost a lot of very tenured, rich history guys there that, now it's almost feels like it's ground zero again.
You lost a lot of leaders, a lot of guys that played within the organization for quite some long time. And look, it's going to take time for, the next group of guys to really build their own, culture, their own traditions. Obviously, Mayo has to build his own, somewhat culture and everything. It's not going to be built in one day. It's going to take time. Look, we had, some unprecedented, success there for, 20 plus years. That's hard to do. And look, so you're not going to have success for probably 40 years straight or anything like that. It's going to be some ebbs and flows. And right now they're just trying to find themselves at the moment.
So how about balancing like NFL life with like family, right? Like, did you remember your first was born, you were still playing?
Yeah,
it was before you retired, right?
Yep. In 2019, yep.
So what was that balance like? And I'm sure you saw other guys too that, maybe had, a few more kids, maybe a little bit older and stuff, but what's it like balancing that family life, and what does that support system really got to look like? Cause people don't talk about that a lot.
It can be tough for sure, because you spend most of your time, in the facility during the season. You're there from 7 o'clock till 4:30, 5 o'clock, and you have 2 hours, maybe 3 hours to be with your wife and kids, and the next day you repeat all over again. So they're spending most of their time, with their mom and with whoever's in your household. And look, it's not easy, but at the same time, you have a job to do, and you have an understanding that. Look, this is for 6 months. You definitely lock in, but you gotta find the balance, because you have to be present. When you're home, it can't be all football. When you have those hours at home, make sure you're attentive to your wife, attentive to your kids, and give them the best version of yourself. And I have a great support system. My wife, my kids. My kids didn't really get to see me play too much. My son went to a few games when he was a few months old. Obviously, no idea what's going on. I believe he went to 2 games, or he went to 1 game the year I got hurt. Then the second game I got hurt, so he didn't really. My daughter never got to go into any of the games, but yeah, my wife was always supportive and helpful. And look, a lot was thrusted on her plate, by me, playing the NFL. And then once I got hurt, even more was put on her plate, because I was immobile for some months, and that was tough. So always appreciative of her for doing whatever she could to support them.
So one thing that we touched on last time, and I want to talk about a little bit now, is the financial aspect of the game, right? So one thing that I asked you was, when did you really start to realize the business aspect of the NFL, and how did that come about? And, did it really take anything away, from the game for you, or did it just change your perspective?
The business aspect was definitely, my rookie season with the inactive and all that stuff. Just I was like, I gotta let me pay attention to how this really works when it comes to the finances and everything. I was like, do I still get paid if I'm inactive, and all that stuff? So I really dug deep into that. And look, when you get drafted, obviously you get signing bonuses and things of that nature. Kind of learning, when you get paid, how much you're getting paid, and all that stuff. Making sure you have the right financial people in place to make sure you guys are on the same page as far as if you want to invest or if you don't want to invest. How aggressive or how conservative you want to be with your money, and just communicating with those guys. However much you want to communicate. It could be daily, weekly, monthly. You gotta let those guys know. So. For me, you definitely learn that, in your rookie season. And look, the more you're in it, the more you understand it. I think the more guys that are more aware, of those situations, not just, handing your money off to somebody and like, all right, you just take care of it. And like, you just let me know when you need something from me. I don't think that should be the case. You should be trying to, learn as much as possible about, your finances to make sure, you have a good understanding.
Yeah, for sure. And do you feel like you did a pretty good job of like, and not only just a good job, but did you have a pretty big interest, right? Like naturally, I think some guys, they naturally have, this interest in money, stock market, an entrepreneurial kind of, spirit to them or whatever. And so you have guys that look, that just lies in their interest. So they want to read about it. They want to learn about it, almost as like it's a hobby for them. Right.
Yeah.
Versus guys that are like, okay, I just really got to make sure that I understand what the heck's going on here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't find myself in a bad position. Where do you think you probably lay on the spectrum of that? Like, is it something that you really dove into? You're like, man, I really got to get my head wrapped around this, and I don't have a good handle on it. Asking a lot of questions, whether it's reading books, relying on people that you trusted in your corner. What did that look like for you?
In the beginning, I probably had zero interest in the beginning. I think the more the more money you accumulate, I think the more interest you start to find, because you want to make sure that money is being used correctly and being saved properly. So I will give my financial advisor, John Peterson, a ton of credit. He's Gio's financial advisor as well. He comes to meet with my wife and I, every off season, even now to this day, to kind of go over finances, and he communicates, very well of what he thinks the market's going to look like, and how he thinks we should, play or whatever, what he thinks we should put our money into, and get a good understanding of all of that. So, yeah, I think the more the years go by, the more interest you find in it, whether you want to get into real estate or more stocks, more bonds, treasuries, whatever it may be. He does a good job of communicating, and I'm still learning, honestly. I mean, you never can learn enough when it comes to that, because there's always different stuff. There's different loopholes and all this other stuff. So always being a sponge.
What about, you gave a shout out there to, your financial advisor. What was it like really finding people too, and like trusting people? Cause like, that's another thing that I'm like, man, when you probably first get that maybe the first big payday or something like that, right? Like, you always hear the stories, or at least, you see the stories of the guys that, they trusted the wrong people, people, always want something, right? What was it like for you in that decision-making process to really understand, like, who is it that I can trust, that's going to have my back, that's going to be in my corner?
It's kind of funny. My rookie year, or before that, when I was getting drafted and all, I met with like 3 or 4 different financial advisors. One who represented a few people in my agency, one who did a speech at the Senior Bowl when I was there, before the draft and everything. And then I met with John Peterson, the guy who I have now. Didn't end up going with him at the first time. I ended up going with the guy who represented a few guys in my agency. And he was good. He communicated well, very personable. Felt like a guy you could trust in everything. But he ended up, making some infraction, like with his company, ended up having to leave his company. So I had to find somebody else. So then I had to interview a few more people the next year. Signed with a different guy who was based in Fort Lauderdale, a guy by the name of like Gene Harvey. He was a good dude as well. I think he ended up having to leave his company like my second year. So I ended up going with, John Peterson the third time around. Probably should have went with him, in the beginning. But hey, so each of the guys that I had, I trusted them all. They all, communicated well. So luckily when it came to that, but it's all a feel thing. Nobody can tell you who to pick and who to trust. You just have to feel like you can communicate with those guys. I said, not even just about your money. You just got to be able to communicate. I feel like on a friend type, basis. I think that's how you build trust with somebody.
Yeah, it's that world is so at least the broker dealer environment, right? Like on their side, it's so highly regulated. You see it all the time with these guys that are like, something happens and they gotta go find the next shop or whatever.
Yeah,
but
it's hard.
I know that one's not an easy gig.
It's definitely not. Like I said, and there's some bad apples out there, so you gotta be able to sort through that, read between the lines, and get a good understanding for who those people are as a true person.
Yeah. So speaking of bad apples, let's talk NIL real quick, because it is where like now you come into a world where you're 3-4 years younger than from where you started when you came into the NFL, and you're having to experience all this, right? And I mean, I know me looking back, that 3-4 years of just, personal development, right? And, the way you're growing, the way you mature and everything, it makes a huge impact. And so, do you feel like had you experienced it 3-4 years earlier, how much different would it have been for you, right? If you're in the NIL era, you get, a big contract. How prepared would you have been for it then? And what do you think this landscape's going to really like turn out to be and kind of look like?
I think it definitely helps the kids be more prepared if they make it to the next level. But I think it kind of works both ways. I think obviously those guys get to make money now. You'll be more prepared and be more aware of, whether you want to invest money or how to save it and all things of that nature. Being able to meet with, financial advisors or agents, being 18, 19, 20 years old. So I think that's cool. But at the same time, it's like a lot of these kids, how do you make those decisions that young? I don't think I would, obviously I had great parents, so, they would help me make that decision. Hopefully these guys do as well, and they lean into their parents or somebody that they trust to help them make that decision, because you see, bad decisions being made week in and week out with some of these kids, signing away future money, being, swindled out of money, being promised something that you're not getting, or the agent's making more money than what you're making out of the deal. So I think all these guys just have to be careful. I think they need to have a union for these kids to make sure that they can send these contracts and all this stuff to be reviewed. So there's a kind of like a set guidelines for these guys, know who to trust, and they have like a set resource they can use. I think that would help a ton. So I see both sides.
Dude, the contracts are, man, that's what gets me. Not just like, what they are or whatever, but just having to read through all of them, the way they structure these things or whatever. Yeah. There's so much fine
print. Read that fine print, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine for you. I mean, that must have been exhausting because,
you literally gotta go page for page.
Wait, what does this mean?
Yeah, it's like, hold on, what does this mean? Like,
can you guys put this in English?
Yeah. Dumb this down for me, please. Please.
Life after football, you're broadcasting. You started a new podcast. All right. I want to talk about the Money Down real quick. You guys are awesome. You guys are hilarious. Looks like, you got a good group of guys. I think they're all ex-teammates of yours from Wisconsin, right?
Yep.
So how much fun are you guys having doing it? I mean, it looks like you guys are having a blast. And tell me about the experience so far and everything. I mean, this is part of what I would say is kind of like an entrepreneurial journey for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's been fun. We actually started like a podcast with like a different company last year talking about just Wisconsin football. We all played at the University of Wisconsin, for 4 years. Then after that, we decided to kind of branch off, do our own thing and talk about, all sports, college football, with WNBA, NBA, NFL, and talk business as well. Just getting the big part of our podcast is called the Money Down. Like in football, it's like third down in the game, crucial situations, things of that nature. But when it comes to life, I think it applies to people as well, because at some point you got to bet on yourself and go all in and try and get to where you want to be. So we want to, when we have guests on, we want to ask them, what is their money down moment when they have to go all in on themselves? Are they currently in it? What are they doing to get to that point to give either adults or young kids kind of a reference point to look at? Because we all go through different things, and the more you can learn about somebody who went through something, I think that helps. So I think that's the biggest part of our podcast. But we have a great time, man. Having conversations that we have like in our group chats on a day-to-day basis, just on in front of a camera. We have a ton of fun with it. We're gonna obviously try and continue to grow, continue to have more guests on, either former teammates or people, business people, financial advisors, however we may see fit. I think it's been a ton of fun so far.
That's awesome. It looks like you guys are having a blast. I'm enjoying it. I'm getting the content. It's coming up on my feeds. I'm seeing that it's definitely growing. So I'm pumped for you guys. So keep at it for sure. I want to talk about Wisconsin actually real quick. So going back to high school, when you were coming out of St. Thomas, I gotta imagine deciding on Wisconsin was probably pretty big for you, because you probably had a few different opportunities out there, right?
Yeah, I had about 12 or 13 offers or so. Most of them were in the Big Ten. A lot of them were in the Midwest. I mean, in high school, you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to Clemson. That was like my favorite school ever. That was my first ever offer. I got there like sophomore year of high school.
Really?
The coach ended up getting fired. Then after that, didn't really hear too much from him. So that went out the window. That went out the window for me. But going to visit Wisconsin. I mean, the first time I went was like during the off season. I wasn't too convinced at that point. The coaching staff was great. Meeting Paul, Chris, and Coach Rudolph. We went and ate at like a little bar like across the street with my family, just chatting it up, having a good time. Wasn't too convinced at that point. But then when I took my official visit, during the fall, I'm pretty sure it was the first game of the year, seeing the students, getting around the fan base, learning about the academics. It's the perfect college town. Knew they were going to run the football too. It had everything I wanted, so it was the perfect choice for me.
That's one thing that I've talked about with some other folks, just specifically about Wisconsin, is really that fan base. I mean, those people, they care.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
different. It's different than South Florida. So.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
You're taking a shot at somebody there, but I won't call them out.
Just saying, it's different. It's very different. I'll say that. And I love South Florida, but it's very different.
Yeah. Wisconsin's a great school too. I mean, it's got a great reputation academically also.
Yeah. Yep. Which is great. I mean, it had everything I wanted. Like I wanted to study business at the time. They're very well known for the business school, and rightfully so. I tried that, and it was a little too difficult. So I had to had to pivot. I was like, so I see why this is one of the top business schools in the nation. I get it now. I get it.
What'd you end up getting your degree in?
Life science communication. I wanted to do like strictly communication, but they didn't have that. So life science communication was the closest thing. But I learned a lot. Getting to learn about political stuff. Being able to communicate science stuff is all different stuff that I probably never imagined I would have studied, going into college, but had a ton of fun with it.
But so much of it, I got to imagine you're using now. I mean, doing the sports broadcasting. I mean, even the podcasting, because I mean, like you are a great communicator, and so one of the things that we talked about last, Tom had just done his first broadcast, and I was telling you, man, I think it's hilarious that I keep seeing these headlines where everybody's just like really trying to like really critique him so good, like he's still in the league or something.
I mean, it takes reps, man. You're not gonna just walk out there and everything's gonna be perfect. But that's the that's the world we live in now. Everybody finds the negative in everything, unfortunately.
In everything. Somebody that I love watching whenever I catch clips of him is Gronk on set. I mean, he is just he's hysterical.
He's himself, man. That's all you can ask for. He's going to be
that's
authentic.
All you can ask for. Yeah. But speaking of which, even for you and Gio now, where you guys are doing these broadcasts, did you prepare? Do you practice? Do you do formal interviews when you're going with these agencies or anything like that, where you got to showcase your talent?
I mean, for the radio, no. I mean, just kind of they kind of pick guys or refer guys that they believe will be pretty good at, and you kind of I wouldn't say you wing it, but you go out there and you kind of just call it how you see it. That's how I say it. But there is, I did TV with Big Ten Network, last year. They didn't end up bringing me back this year, but being on TV for the first time was definitely an adjustment. Just knowing the cameras, hearing producers in your ear while you're talking, going from camera to camera, looking at certain people, looking back at somebody else, and that was definitely a learning curve. I ended up getting some coaching midway through the year, and that helped. I never thought you get coaching while doing broadcasting, but it's funny listening back, hearing yourself, and sometimes when you say something, as soon as you're done, say man, that sounded pretty bad. I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's hard, man, because you only have a certain amount of time to really get your thoughts out. It has to be concise to where everybody can understand it, and trying to be personable too, and kind of show your personality without being a robot.
Yeah, I can imagine. I look at these guys too, and I have when they're doing the play-by-plays and everything, I'm just I know that has got to take a certain amount of reps and practice and everything. And not only that, but the amount of information that you have to know kind of on the fly too.
Yeah, man, you
Like,
gotta like know how fast this guy ran, what college he went to, how many tackles he has on the year, what type of defensive scheme they play. Like I was just like, oh man. And then you gotta, well, especially like in college, there's like 100 guys on the team. The NFL, luckily, there's only like 46 guys dressed, so that makes it easier. And I just was in the league, so I'm familiar with a lot of the coaches and players, so that definitely helps.
all right, so want to wrap up with a few things. So number one, it's funny. I think I saw this. Where did it come? It came up somewhere for me. I think it was maybe Gio's rookie year. I think the Bengals had. They did. I think they had Hard Knocks like his rookie season.
Yeah.
Like that,
They
right?
the minivan. Yep.
Yes. The minivan. And so, what was your biggest financial splurge when you were like, all right, yes, like, I got here, what was something that you were like, that you went and treated yourself for?
Probably a car. Probably was a car. I got a like a used BMW my rookie year. I mean, that's probably like my biggest issue. Probably like every other year I was buying a different car. But eventually just had to like stop. Like, all right. That's probably like my biggest issue throughout my entire NFL career. Like every other year, just getting a different car. So I probably should have done that. So anybody listening, you don't need to swap your cars out that much. Just losing money at the end
of it. Would your advisor beat you up for it, or he was like, it's all right?
I mean, he didn't really say too much about it. Tried to be fairly smart about it. We're not losing a ton of money, but yeah, those car dealerships always win.
Yeah, that's why Saban owned so many of them.
Huh? Yeah. You might as well own the dealership.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Sweet Feet. You got your Sweet Feet Fridays. How many pairs of shoes do you have?
Oh, I mean, I don't know the exact number.
And is it more than your wife?
Oh yeah, definitely more than my wife, for sure. Not even close. I mean, most of the shoes that she has, because I probably bought them and she probably didn't even want them. So definitely should. She has a ton of shoes and boxes that she probably doesn't even remember she has. Like we just got all of our stuff out of storage from Florida because we moved from Florida a couple of years ago, and I just have boxes and boxes of shoes still, trying to get them all organized, give some away, all that stuff, just trying to sort through it. But I don't know the number now because I've been trying to get rid of some because. Yeah, I do have way too many, way too many for one person. But yeah, it's hard parting ways with some of them.
All right, so few more things that I want to touch on. So number one, you're coaching now. NIU, what are you doing? I guess from a coaching perspective, how are you liking it? You enjoying? I gotta imagine mentoring, some of these young guys.
Yeah, man. Right now, I would say I wouldn't consider myself a coach just yet. I'm more of like a player development person, but I do like help out like on the field and stuff with the running backs. I sit in on, all their meetings and everything, kind of spread wisdom. But yeah, I just meet with guys, one-on-one. Either you can watch film, talk football, talk life, just kind of, if you want to make it to the next level, trying to give you any advice or tips to, help you at this current time or for when you do, actually get to that moment. And going to be meeting with, one of the guys on our team who's going to have a good shot to make it to the NFL right when we get off of this. So, yeah, that just want to be a resource, to the guys. That's the way I've always, wanted to make an impact. Like I always thought I would have some interest in coaching, but those hours are, they're pretty crazy. I think, there's more of the player development thing that more, fits me on. I feel like I could impact kids that way.
I was going to ask you if you had any, coaching aspirations in the future, whether it's, I don't know, running backs coach, offensive coordinator, maybe even head coach aspirations anywhere, or if you'll maybe just leave it to coaching up the young buck.
I don't know. As of right now, I'd probably say no. Well, I wouldn't say never. I feel like it could happen. Just I don't want to be bouncing around, different places. The job stability and security is. It's not the best when it comes to the coaching. I don't want to have my family moving all over the place. I already had my wife out of place. I know I was in one place my entire career, but she was in New England, away from her family for 8 or 9 years or whatever. So her being back by her family now definitely helps her.
This impacts like all of professional sports, kind of going back to like the financial, aspect of things. Like I know there's a couple guys that I know that, play baseball and they're, typically, chasing, let's say at least one more, contract. Usually they're signing like a year contract or something at this point. and you gotta really plan for the future. You're young when you're finishing out, what is an incredible career, something that, takes a tremendous toll on your body too. But how much planning goes into, really just, the future state, and understanding, what you need from like, a lifestyle perspective, growing the family and all that, because you got this pretty short window of time where you're really riding high, but you also got to be really smart about it.
Yeah, man, you have to think about that while you're playing. I said those large checks that you're getting is gonna stop, at some point. So you don't want to be spending, crazily, while you're playing, and then continue to spend crazily, when you're done playing, because eventually that money will run out. Whether you made $100 million or whether you made, whatever, $500,000, just got to be smart with it and always plan for your future, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you have kids. I said, whether you start trust funds or whatever you want to do to help save money for your family. Do that while you're playing. Be smart. Invest however you see fit. Me and my wife, we planned while I was playing, was in a great spot. Once I retired, we're still in a good spot. And like I said, you want to try and continue working when you're done too. Always have some sort of money coming in.
How much of it do you think is about after you're playing is just about the, financial aspect of, how much cash flow, how much money you have coming in, versus how much of it is like really just finding something that you enjoy to fill up your time? Because I know as I've gotten older too, and other folks that I know, depending on, different situations, man, if you're not like passionate or feel like you have some sort of purpose, man, it's tough. And that has nothing to do with the money aspect.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit of both. You definitely want to find something you're passionate about, because if you don't, it's hard to, wake up and, go into work every day or do something that you don't enjoy doing. Eventually, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to drive yourself a little crazy. But when it comes to the cash flows, just making sure you have more money coming in than is going out of your bank account. I think that's the simplest way to do it. I said the more you can, kind of be conservative when you're playing, that helps, once you're done, because it's hard. If you're just constantly spending money, throughout your career, it's kind of hard to just say, all right, I'm done playing, I'm going to stop doing that. It's the more you can practice that, currently, it helps you post-career.
Well, James, I appreciate you spending round 2 with me. I know your time's valuable, so thank you so much for coming on. I'm actually going to try to. I haven't been to a St. Thomas game. I haven't even been back to campus. Years. But tomorrow night they're playing
Chaminade, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna try to go catch it tomorrow night, and they're playing down at FIU, so that should be
be a good one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, James, thanks again, and by the way, everybody, go catch the Money Down pod. Go give them a follow. It is fantastic, especially if you're a football fan. Can't go wrong. So, James, thanks for coming on, man.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Pablo.
See you, James. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Roads and Riches podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting. Let us know how we're doing. And if you're an individual or a business that's in need of accounting services, maybe you're in the market for a new CPA, whether it be tax, accounting, fractional CFO services for your business, or transaction advisory services if you're contemplating a transaction, you should consider using Alpine Mar, the CPA firm that's redefining the accounting industry. You can head on over to alpinemar.com or roadsandriches.com to learn more about us and find a contact form to get in touch. Find out if we can be a good fit for you. We'll see you next time on the Roads and Riches pod.